So I'm officially 12 games deep with the new points Blood Angels, and I had a incredible coaching call the other day where sometimes I just do a really good job of getting something really succinct and plain and just in perfect English so that it's just very understandable. So I'm going to share what I did in that coaching call with you guys right now. And I'm going to give you the absolute keys to success with the new Blood Angels, with the new points that have come out of the MFM. There's no way I'm going to pronounce that word. So let's just jump right into it. So we're going to talk about 4 strengths to success with the new Blood Angels. Now, here's the deal, guys. The number one way to succeed with any army is to identify the individual strengths of that army, and that's what we're going to do today. Another really important aspect to succeeding with your army is understanding your weaknesses. So, you identify your strengths, then you're going to identify all of the weaknesses. If it's possible, what we're going to do is we're going to eliminate our weaknesses. If it's not possible to eliminate our weaknesses, that's not necessarily a death sentence. That's okay. You just accept that this is your weakness and then you build for your strengths. And this is how we're going to absolutely be creating our game plan for our list building. And while this isn't a specific list building video, this is a video to teach you how to actually succeed with the new Blood Angels. Now, here's the deal, guys. I am a professional Warhammer 40,000 coach, and I get to have these conversations every single day with clients from around the freaking world. And if you're looking to have some of these conversations, you can book a coaching call with me, or you can sign up for one of my monthly memberships down below with my coffee link, which is in the description, video description. So you can check that out. Anyway, I'm really excited to bring this particular conversation to you guys because this will change the way that you're approaching your new Blood Angels. So we've got 4 strengths. Here's number 1. Strength to success, number 1. A death brick. Now, some people will argue that that death brick could be Lamarte's with the Death Company. I personally think the foundational unit for pretty much every single version of the Blood Angels is going to be Dante plus Sanguinary Guard. Simply because this one unit is going to force your opponent to respect your entire army. This unit's threat range turn 1 is insane. If you happen to roll a 6 on that advance roll, suddenly this unit can go 19 inches and then be with +1 to charge, because Dante now gives the +1 to advance and the +1 to charge. So let's say you're playing on a map like Tipping Point, where there's only 18 inches between your deployment zone, or Search and Destroy, where there's only 18 inches, and you deploy it in the corner. You can literally be in your opponent's deployment zone before you charge. And simply because you have that insane threat range, it will force your opponent to deploy differently against you. He cannot put his squishy bits where he wants to put his squishy bits, because if they do and you go first, you can just kind of win the game turn 1. Now, this is something that when I play, I always make sure I tell my opponent I can do, because you don't want to gotcha someone with this. This serves 2 purposes. 1, it will force your opponent to respect you, and so your opponent is now no longer going to be putting all of his really dangerous bits in the army on the line that can get him good angles turn 1 to shoot you with. 2, it's going to make sure that your opponent understands that you guys are playing a good moral game together. So these are the things you're going to do. You're always going to tell them what you have the capacity of doing. Now, I rarely ever will do this turn 1 move, but the fact that I can do this turn 1 move forces my opponent to respond, unless they just want to auto lose the game. So Dante plus Sangard requires tons of respect. When they charge, you're going to end up with 30 attacks at strength 8, AP 3 damage 2, and then plus Dante's attacks, which is 9 attacks at strength 10, AP 3 damage 2. And you will get there because of the speed that we just mentioned. Now, it goes even further than that, because Dante's aura is insane. It's actually unbelievably how powerful that aura is. A lot of times, one of the things that I'll do is I will stage Dante in a place where he can't be seen, but somewhere close to the middle of the map, so that if my opponent wants to send a unit out to, say, get area denial turn 1, he's going to have to end up being within 6 inches of Dante with the unit that wants to get area denial, which means he's going to have to take a battle shock at -1 in the fight phase, even if we're not engaged, because this is 6-inch aura. If he fails that battle shock, boom, he fails area denial. It just causes so many problems when you can force your opponent to take battle shocks on their turn and on your turn, especially with the -1 modifier. So the Dante brick itself is actually just a massive strength for Blood Angels. Honestly, it doesn't even matter what detachment, whether you're going to run a Gladius, you're going to run a Liberator Assault Group, or you're going to run an Angelic Host. You really, really need the Dante Death Brick. One of the other things about Dante is that he makes the Sanguinary Guard almost worth their points, because I think we all know at this point, Sanguinary Guard are just overcosted. Dante giving them the +1 advance and charge and giving them the +1 to hit really helps balance their power level to the point where they might actually be worth it. I don't think they're worth it when they're led by a captain, but they might be worth it when they're led by Dante. So let's move on to our strength to success number 2. This is not dependent upon an individual character. It's actually dependent on multiple characters. So we have insane fights first loan up characters. We have the best loan up characters in the entire darn game, and they are absolutely insane in the value that they bring us. So I'm talking about the Mephiston and the Sanguinor, and I'm going to throw the Calidus in there. I know she's not like a Blood Angel specific unit, but honestly, if you're playing Marines right now and you're not bringing the Calidus, wake up, homie. You need to do it. What happens in basically every single Blood Angel list? I'm going to take these 3 units. There's an argument for not taking one of them, but man, it's a tough sell. Because what happens with these 3 units is they are unchargeable by skirmishing units. You cannot charge a Calidus, a Sanguinor, or a Mephiston with a unit of Storm Boys. Can't be done because Mephiston's going to slaughter them all, Sanguinor's going to slaughter them all, and the Calidus is going to slaughter them mostly before they even get to swing. That's a big dang problem for your opponent. Well, the Calidus might overwatch and then slaughter them all, right? So it's just, they are so dang good. Them having a lone op means that they can move up hyper aggressively. You wouldn't do this with the Calidus, of course, but you can move them up hyper aggressively, and you can touch a objective with them that typically you couldn't put a unit on without expecting to lose the unit. Especially when you have someone like Mephiston, who also comes with a 2-up armor save baked in, a T5, and that 4-up Feel No Pain. Suddenly, this guy can weather anti-tank shooting, which is stupid. So what happens is it forces your opponents to commit way, way more than they would ever have to commit to an individual character, which really changes the balance of the entire board state. So these 3 units just being on the battlefield, the Sanguinor not necessarily being on the battlefield, but coming in from reserves, really changes the way that your opponent actually has to play the game, and it is a huge problem that they are going to have to solve. Just a little bit of a brief mention about what the Sanguinor himself does. Sometimes I actually do start him on the board. I'll start him on the board against certain armies that might have like turn 1 pressure. Say you're playing Vanguard or Nids, and they have the Gene Stealers that get to scout, advance, and charge. I actually start the Sanguinor on the board, and I'll heroic him into the unit that I don't want him to charge, which will then allow the Sanguinor to fight first, and that Gene Stealers unit then just goes poof, right? Other times, most of the time, you definitely start him in reserves. You can start him in reserves, and then let's say that we really put a bigger unit into Mephiston. They want to charge Mephiston. Well, then suddenly the Sanguinor can come down. He can screw up the pylons, and you really, really wreck that opponent with 2 fights first units that are both tough and hit really, 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 really hard. So that is what these fights first units do, and it is a huge headache for your opponent to solve. I'm going to dig a little bit more. I'm going to do an actual completely in-depth video specifically on Mephiston and the Sanguinor, because there's just so much to talk about that I can't really fit into this video to give you all the details of it. But anyway, they give you crazy objective primary play, they give you crazy secondary play, and they give you massive deployment advantages, because you could just deploy these guys out in the middle of nowhere, not worry about if they get shot. You're generally going to do that with more your Mephiston and your Calidus, because your Sanguinor is pretty much going to always be in reserves, which allows you to say, turn 1, free get containment, because your opponent's not going to be able to shoot you and destroy the units that you did containment with. Shoot Mephiston up the board to deal with a skirmisher or to get on the objective. There are just so many things they can do. All right, let's go into the strength to success numero 3. We have hyper mobility with especially the Liberator Assault Group, which is really what this video is more focusing on, because honestly, sadly, the other 2 detachments just don't really work. Angelic Host, Sanguinary Guard are too expensive. Inceptors are too expensive. I just don't see how we're going to make Angelic Host work right now. So I'm really focusing on Liberator Assault Group. Liberator Assault Group is baby Gladius, actually, because we can always give access to advance and charge / shoot, and we can always give it access to fallback and charge / shoot. Think about what this really means. It means that Liberator Assault Group, even though we do give the +2 strength and the +1 attack on the charge, it's not necessarily a purely melee army, because now our tanks can get fallback and shoot and can get advance and shoot, and that is a huge freaking deal. You put the Vindicator down, and your opponent goes, okay, cool, Vindicator moves 9 inches, and you can shoot 24 inches. So what they're going to do is they're simply just going to measure out to make sure the Vindicator can't possibly get in range, and then you say, cool, and now you advance 3 inches, and now your Vindicator can shoot the target they didn't want them to shoot. That is powerful. Now, of course, you're always going to warn your opponent you have the stratagems to do this, but that will just change how your opponent has to stage. It gives you so much more freedom in your movement. As a matter of fact, when we look at some of the lists that I'm currently running for Blood Angels, which I think I'm going to do on a live stream maybe tomorrow? I don't think I'm going to do it tonight. Yeah, I think it might be tomorrow. I'm going to break down like 4 different list architects, but one thing that I think might surprise a lot of people is just how much stinking shooting we're gonna fit into our Liberator Assault group. It is some of these tanks get really, really good when you have on-demand access to advance and shoot or fall back and shoot. Then, when we're talking about hypermobility, yes, we have those two strats, but don't forget just how stinking fast 12-inch movement infantry with fly is, right? So you're still moving 12 inches, you are advancing, you can advance a charge, right? Like we're talked about with the Sanguinara and Dante's Brick. You can advance and shoot with your tanks, but it's just a fast freaking army, which allows you to stage in certain unique places. Combo this with the Sanguinar, because remember, the Sanguinar can come down when your opponent charges you. He can then fall back and charge something with a move 12, so you can just get your units in places your opponent does not want your units to be. And that is amazing because Warhammer 40,000 is basically won and lost in the deployment slash movement phase. So your hypermobility is a huge key to strength here, success right here. So let's go on to our last strength of success, and this is number 4. We get to punch outside of our weight class. Let me illuminate for you. Everything in the army gets +2 strength and +1 attack when they charge. So if you have it, all right, sorry, I wrote this wrong. Let me just edit this real quick. In Liberator Assault Group, a squad of JPI will 100% slaughter a 10-man boy squad with War Boss, or a 10-man Beast Naga squad with a Beast Boss. You will just annihilate them in LAG with a JPI squad. But if you tried to do that with a JPI squad and literally any other detachments, it's not going to work out well. You're going to kill a couple boys, and then the boys are going to slaughter you back. This is a big stinking deal because now you can use your lower pointed costed units to really punch up outside of their weight class. Just as an aside, I know I was one of the big pioneers about running the 10-man JPI with a Sanguinary Guard back in Index times. I've been testing it out a lot, by the way. I don't think the 10-man JPI squads really work anymore because without the extra blip of AP and the Field of Pain that the Sangard or the Sanguinary Priest used to give them, they're kind of hunting the exact same units that a 5-man hunts. And honestly, I think I'd rather bring the 5-mans, which is a little sad. Just another example of this, guys. Scouts at strength 6 are terrifying. A 65-point unit of scouts will blitz through 2 MSU squads of Eldar, and with your infiltrate and scout moves, you can do it. So scouts become a nightmare in Blood Angels. I actually can't imagine me not wanting to run 2 units of scouts. Just for those of you, because I'm pretty sure someone's going to ask, I like running it with Chainsword on the Sergeant, 1 sniper rifle, 1 missile launcher, and then the last 2 I typically put 2 shotguns on, but there's an argument for combat knives. And then lastly, for a third example, and just so I can really beat this into the ground, guys, a captain with Rage Fueled Warrior and 5 Assault Intercessors is 155 points. This unit will nuke almost anything in the game. That captain, when you activate your once per game, First to the Fray, and you activate Sustain 3 for your Rage Fueled Warrior and your Blood Angel, so don't remember, your Power Fist goes up to Strength 10. You're starting at 9 attacks, you're hitting on 2s, I assume you're going into your Oath of Moment target, which means you're going to be fishing for 6s, and each 6 you hit gives you sus 3. This guy is on average getting roughly 16 hits with his Power Fist, which is then going to be at Strength 10, and you get to reroll wound roll since you're a Assault Intercessor squad, which is then going to let you fish for dev wounds. It is bananas. I've had this guy come out and hit, I believe it was 27 hits. It might have been 28, something like that. It was stupid the amount of hits he got just because you spike a few 6s when you fish for it with Oath of Moment. This squad will annihilate basically anything in the game. And it is bananas how hard it hits. Now, it immediately dies after it activates. But that one activation, you can turn a 155 point unit into a, what do you call it? Freaking, I don't know. You can get 300 points worth of value out of that unit easy. I really like to bring them out of a Redeemer, but you can also run them in the Impulsor and stage them and do other things like that as well. And don't forget, guys, you have an Advance in Charge. You don't have to use Advance in Charge on your Dante squad. You can use it on this squad to get them where they need. So punching up is a big deal. All right, guys. So these were the strengths. Listen, guys, remember, list building is all about leaning into your strengths, shoring up your weaknesses. I always recommend that you focus, however, on building into your strengths. If you can eliminate your weaknesses, do so. But a lot of times you can't actually eliminate your weaknesses. You can just sometimes make them a little bit less weak. I don't enjoy the concept of making my weaknesses a little bit less weak. I'd much rather make my strengths an indomitable fortress of doom and destruction. That's what I want. I want my strengths to be super, super, super strong. So here are the 4 strengths that I've identified, and I really want you guys to use this in your games, in your list building. Give me some feedback. Let me know how you like these as you play along with it. It is 1, your Death Brick, which in my opinion is basically going to be Dante and the Sandguard. Some people might make an argument for it could be Lamarte's and the Death Company. I'll do another video on why I don't think that's the case. Insane lone ops. There's going to be no one who will dispute that we have the best lone ops in the game, and if they dispute it, damn it, I'm here to fight them. And then 3, mobility advantage. We have a massive mobility advantage. It's not the most mobile army in the game, but it's pretty dang mobile. And then 4, our punching up ability. We punch up like crazy. And guys, remember, this is focused on Liberator Assault Group. There are different strengths and weaknesses for the other 2 detachments, which I'm not focusing on this video because I don't think they're competitively viable as of yet. Although I am still experimenting with Angelic Host to see if I can find some secret sauce. Guys, I'm going to be back. I'm going to be doing a live stream to go over some of the lists that I've built with this army and some of the playstyles that it can actually do. I hope you guys join me for that, and we'll be back with another video tomorrow. Until next time, happy crumping, baby. Bye-bye.